Landing today from Wahoo, an updated Elemnt ROAM cycling GPS computer that they call, well, we all know the deal with Wahoo. They're calling it the ROAM. We shall forever call it the ROAM 2. Just makes things a little easier for us to differentiate between the two. In today's video, I'll give you a quick rundown of what's new with this unit. We'll then get into the box and do some side-by-side comparisons with the older ROAM version 1 and the Bolt version 2. I'll take it out on the road. We'll dive into the GPS accuracy. That's one of the things they say they've improved. And I'll finish up with a ROAM 2 versus Bolt 2 side-by-side technical comparison. All right, let's get straight into it with what's new on this unit. 64 color screen up from 7 colors on the original ROAM 1, 32 gigabytes of memory for more maps, more detailed maps. They tell me the ROAM 2 does have more detailed mapping, more routes, more activities, etc. can be stored on the unit. The ROAM version 1 only had 4 gigabytes of memory, so this is quite the step up from that. The Bolt version 2 has 16. It has convex buttons, easy to press with gloves on. It has dual-band GNSS, or what they're calling dual-band GPS, for that higher accuracy of tracking where you've been, especially in complex environments such as large forests, large cities, next to big bodies of water, next to big buildings, and just all those nasty places where GPS accuracy doesn't work too well. USB-C is the port that you'll be plugging into for charging this. And I also believe it has an accelerometer, a gyro, and a compass. But I believe they're features to be unlocked in future updates. It also has a faster processor than the ROAM version 1. Now do note, that's not a full specification list, that's just what's new on the unit. And that's what builds on top of the existing unit and other Elemnt units from Wahoo. Now, 16 months ago, when the Bolt version 2 launched, things got a bit awkward for the older ROAM. The Bolt 2 really put this thing to the sword when it comes to technical specifications and speed. Today, the ROAM 2 jumps back into prime position of the GPS offerings from Wahoo, outdoing the Bolt 2 in just a few small areas. Alrighty, onto the pricing of the ROAM 2. Now, US $399, just as a reference, that's up from $379 for the ROAM 1. That was 3 years ago when that launched. So things have just shifted a little bit, but such is the times that we're in. Canadian dollars looking at $599.99, pounds $349.99, euros $399, Aussie dollars around 600. In addition to the hardware upgrade today, Wahoo have either launched or announced upcoming features that we'll soon see on the ROAM 2 and some of their other units, including Summit segments, which will get climbing information on a predefined route. Some might know this as Climb Pro, but let's not call it Climb Pro. I'm sure Garmin have that copyrighted. That's not at launch, that is coming soon, and that will be on the ROAM 1, ROAM 2, and Bolt 2. In addition to that feature, they have Super Sapiens integration coming soon. That is real-time glucose monitoring. I believe that's coming for the ROAM 2 and the Bolt 2. There's now Elemnt Backup and Restore across all of their units. That's via the companion app. So if you spend a lot of time setting up all your pages, all your sensors, you don't need to worry about it. If you upgrade a unit or your unit goes bouncing off your handlebars down the road, you can restore from backup and everything will be set up as it was. Also coming is public route sharing from the Elemnt companion app, so you can select routes or multiple routes and broadcast those out to people standing nearby. It's a quick way for them to get their routes onto the unit if, let's just say, you're leading a group ride somewhere. And there's also system outdoor workouts, allowing you to complete any scheduled workouts on the Wahoo training software outdoors. All those features I've just mentioned that are worthy of individual videos, so stay tuned for a few of those coming up soon. But for now, let's get into this box. Okay, now on the box you can't really tell it's a ROAM 2 because, again, Wahoo call it the ROAM. On the back's what to look for: memory, 32 gig, charging, USB-C. They're the two things that are easy to spot that defines the newer version. Okay, getting into the box. Again, Wahoo always do packaging very, very well. All the details here. And wait for it. Oh, that is just the best. Okay, here is the unit with the convex buttons on top. So they stick up just a little bit. Easy to click. One thing of note is comparing it to, well, here's the older one side by side, the ROAM 1, ROAM 2. Well, technically this is the ROAM 1.1, but let's not go down that rabbit hole today. Very, very similar. One notable difference, aside from the USB-C versus micro USB under that cap there, the power button is in a little bit different position, a little bit higher on the ROAM 2. Other than that, very, very similar devices. The ambient light sensor is a little larger on the ROAM 2 than the ROAM 1. That's that little hole up here, but other than that, very, very close. Okay, we'll put you there for now. So what's left in the box, there's the standard mount and some cable ties for that. I really wish they'd have the O-ring mount that Garmin used. They are so easy to flip between bikes. Out front mount supplied with the secure bolt, if you want to use that. Well, the secure locking screw. Let's not get too confused with the bolt and the bolt. That's a very small bolt. That's the other bolt. I'll bring you in a moment. I believe the mount is identical. We can check that by checking that on the new one, and the original ROAM fits exactly the same. So I assume that is the same mount. Out front mount, USB-C cable, zip ties, and quick start guide and everything else in there that you may want to throw aside and forget about while you go about putting your new toy on your bike. Okay, let's get you. I do like their boxes, I really do. You need to go on the weight scales. And I'll bring in your friends. Old ROAM, Bolt 2. Let's go. You're tipping the scales, ROAM 2 at 100 grams. ROAM 1.1, 98 grams. 2 grams difference, 2 grams. Possibly in the USB-C port, no, I don't know. Bolt 2 coming in at 69, well, later in the video I call it 70 grams because when I put it here, it's 70 grams, see? So let's call that 70 grams. All right, you better double check that. Zero that, and again, 69. Okay, 69 or 70, plus or minus 1 gram. And finally, let's do a boot up comparison between ROAM 1 and ROAM 2. Now here's one I prepared earlier and updated. Yes, I do have 2 ROAM 2s. We'll do a 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, the ROAM 1 just edging out the ROAM 2 for boot time. One catch with this, I am running beta firmware, so I'll just show you that. So I am running beta 15.323 on both. Correct, so same beta firmware, so maybe not representative of what's out there in the real world, but we're still looking at about 35 to 40 seconds boot up time on both of these units. The Bolt 2, I've covered the boot up in another video on that. All right, let's get out on the road. Out on the road here with the ROAM 2 and the Bolt 2, the first thing I will test is the speed of these units loading the same route at the same time, and the ROAM 2 comes in about a millisecond faster than the Bolt 2. No surprises there, I believe they have the same processor, but good to see there's no additional lag there on either. Now onto my first reroute test. This is through Wendouree, hang a left this way here. Give the units a few seconds to determine that I'm off course, and they both reroute again at identical speed. Now those with a very close eye to detail will notice that I forgot to hit start on this activity, so it's successfully routing me and rerouting me on the path that I've chosen, but I haven't actually started the activity, so that was quite impressive. A little further out the road, and to speed things up, to show you that these two units, the Bolt 2 and the ROAM 2, pretty much go hand in hand when it comes to navigation, routing prompts, etc. Now, those looking really close at the screen could tell the contrast difference on the left and the right. That's also apparent in person. A little easier to read the ROAM 2 than it is the Bolt 2 with its lighter grey lines. And you'll notice the green patches there, or the green areas. That's part of the more mapping detail that the ROAM 2 has. A little easier to spot different things around town, parks, etc. A little further down the road, I changed the screen information to get us a little bit more insight on what's going on these head units and how they're measuring some of the metrics out on the road. Now you do see the mapping difference there again on the left versus the right. Left being the ROAM 2, having that little green area, and the right on the Bolt 2 not having that. Now, data sections on the top there, grade showing in real time. And that is pretty quick to change on the Roam 2 and the Bolt 2. Those playing the long game and who are across the latest Garmin units who are having a bit of a problem with real-time gradient display. I can confirm not the problem at all with the Roam 2 or the Bolt 2, apparently. GPS accuracy there is also something else of interest. I'm not quite sure what that is. I'll guess it's in meters, but the GPS accu on the Roam 2, which is using the multi-band GNSS, never changed from that number 1, whereas over there on the right, the GPS accuracy on the Bolt 2, which is using just the standard GPS system, was, well, a little varied. We'll dive into the exact GPS track in a few moments, but you can see that number change around just a little bit as I'm riding along on the Bolt 2, but the Roam 2, locked in, rock solid. Reroute test number 2. You can see that the planned route is to veer left and go up the water towers here in Ballarat, but I'm going to head straight into town. Now, all things being equal, which they were in the past, these two units should reroute pretty much at the same time along the same path. And, yep, that's exactly what happened. And there's the blue chevrons indicating the alternate path to get back onto my route. Pulling up some data here from an Elemnt ROAM versus Elemnt ROAM 2 ride I did on the gravel. And the battery burn rate, as reported, was about 7.04% per hour on the ROAM and a little less on the ROAM 2. The original ROAM was quite new, so I won't put that down to any degradation of the battery. But side by side, both being used in exactly the same way, changing the same screens, same sensors, getting about 14.2 and 14.5 hours of battery burn time out of those. That's an estimate from the fit file. Now to the GPS tracking accuracy with the ROAM versus the ROAM 2. Flipping to full screen so we can see all of the detail. And look, even though there's a lot of tree coverage here, it didn't stress these units too much at all. But we can see just a little bit smoother track from the purple unit versus the blue. The blue being the ROAM 1. Purple being ROAM 2 with its multi-band GNSS. As I said, there's not much to it, but the purple locks on a lot better, as we'd expect, versus just one singular satellite system being GPS. Another example just here, bit of a higher speed corner, and GPS that has a little bit of lag or less precision, I guess you would call it. Goes a little wider, that's the ROAM version 1. ROAM version 2 with its multi-band locks on. Even a bit of squiggly wiggly through here under some trees, and the purple line, ROAM 2, is having a better day out under the sun. So for this route here, is the multi-band GNSS a game changer? Not really. It's just a nice to have. It's the new standard for the higher end units. A question I'm sure will come up over and over again is, should people go with the Roam 2 or the Bolt 2 if they're sticking within the Wahoo ecosystem? Well, I have the technical specifications and comparisons. I don't have any answers. That's entirely up to you to choose. Up on screen here we have the screen size and colors. Roam 2, obviously a little larger screen. So 65.8mm versus 55.8mm, both with 64 colors. I do find the Roam 2 has a little bit more contrast and a little bit easier to see, given it's just a little bit bigger out on the road. Speaking of a little bit bigger, Roam 2 100 grams, Bolt 2 70 grams, so 30 grams difference there. Memory and storage, well, the Roam 2 has that new 32 gigabytes of storage, which gives you almost global maps. It is a big step up from the 4 gig, and the Bolt version 2 only having 16 gig. So if you're traveling around, the Roam 2 is probably going to be the better answer there. When it comes to GPS accuracy, the Roam 2 has that covered with its multi-band GNSS, or multi-band GPS if you'd like to call it that, and the Bolt 2 having just the GPS compatibility. However, depending on where you're riding, that's usually good enough. Thankfully, we're now seeing the USB standard across the board, so both units have USB-C, and the battery, the Roam 2, just tips out the Bolt version 2 with 17 hours or up to 17 hours on the Roam 2 versus up to 15 hours on the Bolt 2. There's also a slight price difference, but that's not what I'm covering. I'm talking about the technical specifications. So there they are. Choose which one suits you, and away you go. Okay, so there we are, the Roam 2. Some would say just minor upgrades. I would say some important upgrades that needed to happen, especially to put the ROAM back in top position from the GPS units from Wahoo. If you own any of the other Elemnt units, keep an eye out for the new feature upgrades coming to your unit soon. I'll cover those where I can, so hit subscribe. You'll be across them when they release. And with that, thanks for watching.